Hi everyone, welcome to your first Flash tutorial for the final project of the year, the presentation project. Now don't worry about Flash at all, we're going to break you in today with a nice, getting you used to the timeline, getting you used to animation and stuff. Flash is a very simple piece of software when you break it down. And we'll take it one step at a time, and when we get to more structural things using buttons and things, we'll look at that at a later date. But for now, I just want you to get your head around the timeline and the different ways you can move things around the screen. So if you come into Flash, I want you to set up an ActionScript 2 file, and I'll explain a bit why later on. ActionScript is a coding language that you can apply to your Flash to make it do certain things, stop, go, button release and things like that. So if you click that there, here we go. I've got my my document set up here. Now I'm just going to quickly go through the interface with you, just so you've got a rough idea of what's going on. So on the left hand side, as always, you've got your drawing tools, selection, direct selection, type, rectangle, and you've got your colors down here, which I'll restore to normal there, black and white. Then obviously up top, then insert view as always. You got your window here with your specific properties, so you can kind of pull out and drag into this bar here. So at the moment I've got swatches, I've got a line, transform, that kind of stuff. So anything that you would use quite often, you chuck in there. Exactly the same as in Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. But then Flash does add a couple more features. If you look at the right here, you've got your library. Now anything you drop into Flash, any artwork, anything you create, buttons, movie clips, graphics, which I'll go through later, will all be archived in this library. So if you ever want to go back and make changes, or you can drop them back in, you'll have a massive list of these things going on here. And then the properties panel then is very much like the top bar in Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, where whatever you've selected on screen, these options will be relevant to that selection. So at the moment, because I've got nothing selected, these things are just relevant to the document itself. If I was to drop in a shape and click that, it would give me different options. So that's very straightforward. And then finally, then down here is the timeline, and I'll go through this then as the tutorial goes on. So for now, I want you to set up a 650 by 500 document, so we've got a bit more room there. That's great stuff. Let's just drag that down a touch. There we go. And then frames per second. Now, generally, rule of thumb with animation, 30 frames per second is kind of industry standard. This will depend then, obviously, on if you're doing animation in Flash, then that would make sense. But if you're just using buttons to go to different frames and there's not a lot of animation, that doesn't really matter. It kind of depends on how crisp you want the animation to be. But we're going to look at a little bit of animation today, so we'll set that to 30. Right, so we're going to start with some very simple animation, shape tweening and motion tweening. So if you just grab, I'm just going to change this to black a sec. I'm just going to grab here and draw a rectangle. Now remember, I've got layer 1 here, and I've got my frame selected there, so that's fine. So if I just click and draw this out now. Now before I continue, I just want to make you aware of something. If I come to Selection Tool, and I grab this and I pull it out. Now can you see it's left behind the stroke? Now when I drew this, I had both stroke and fill on. Now stroke in Flash can be a bit of a nightmare. You see now I'm clicking and trying to move this, and the whole thing is tripping out really. So to make your life a lot easier, I would, let's get rid of that, backspace, I would take off stroke and I would simply use the fill for now, just to make our lives a lot easier. So let's drag that up there, selection, let's make that a touch smaller. Okay, now what I'm basically going to do, I'm going to morph this square into, let's just draw that here, about there, that should be fine. I'm going to morph this square into this circle. Let me just align this, align to stage, center align, there we go. So this will morph into that. Now, depending on how long I want this animation to be, is where I'll select on the timeline for it to go. So, for example, 30 frames per second. So if I click there, that will be 1 second's worth of animation. And this is where a thing called keyframes comes into play. So if I right-click here, insert keyframe, what that means is wherever you've set a keyframe is where a specific or important event is happening within the animation. So if I click here and I get rid of the circle, so this keyframe, I've just got the square. If I come back to this keyframe now and I get rid of the square, I've got just the circle. So that keyframe is the circle, that keyframe is a square. Now what will happen in between is basically whatever the two keyframes have displayed, or what state they're in, that's where the animation will take place. So if I just right click here and click Shape Tween, now can you see this is now morphing into the circle. If I click enter, I can play the timeline. Very, very simple animation. If I click and drag this down to 15, I've now got a 15-second animation. So obviously the thing moves a lot faster. And what I could do then is if I click and drag up to the keyframe and I right click, remove frames, and then I can simply, I've got a 15-second animation. If I want to make that longer, I can then, pull that back to 30 or whatever. So there we go. That's pretty simple. With shape tweening, I can also use a thing called shape hints. Now this is obviously a very simple animation, a square going to a circle, but if you've got something a little bit more complicated, what you can do, if I go to modify, so make sure I'm on the appropriate keyframe, I've got my square there, I've got to modify, shape, add shape hint, and as you can see the hotkey is Shift Command H, which I'm going to be using now. So if I click add shape hint, so there we go, you can see that little A has appeared. Now if I just click that up to there, and then I Shift Command H again, 2, 3, 4, so I've got A, B, C, and D. So if I put those there on the corners, now if I come to my circle, now you'll see the shape hints are there again, right? So what I can do now, I can dictate really how the square morphs into the circle. So if I put D there, C there, B there, and A there. Now let's give that a try. Let's see what happens. Yeah, can you see now A is morphing to A there? So that's a kind of a different way you could approach it. Let's switch these round a touch. So let's bring C to there, and as you can see, if the shape hint is red, that means it's not working. So you need to get it on a corner somewhere. So let's get A to there, B to there, and then if I drop D up there and B to there. Now let's see what happens when I do that. See, now I get a different shape tween because A is going from bottom right through to top left. So that's something you can sort of play around with there. Like I said, a square to a circle is very straightforward, but if you've got complicated shapes that are tweening from one to the other, then it's a good idea to use the shape hints. And then if I want to get rid of them, I can simply right click, remove, or you can remove all hints, there we go, and then it'll go back to the original. So that is shape tweening in a nutshell. It's that simple. Now what if I want to do motion tweening, making these things move across the screen? Now what I need to do is, so if I right click here, insert keyframe, now I've got, because at the moment this is in the animation, yeah, so I don't want to mess around with this because this is the end of the animation. Now I've got another keyframe here, this is just this on its own, no animation involved, right? Now what I need to do is convert this to a symbol, and like I said earlier, there are 3 types of symbols: graphic, button, and movie clip. So if I go to right click, convert to symbol, and let's just drag this down there. Now you can see here I've got movie clip, button, graphic. Now graphic would simply just box this up and do nothing with it. Button allows an interaction with the user. So if the user clicks it, or rolls over it, or clicks on it, if there's code put in place, that button will do something on screen, so make something else happen. And then finally, movie clip. Now movie clip again will box this in, but what that means is within that box you can set up more animations. So you can have an animation within an animation within an animation. And I know that sounds a little bit complicated at the moment, but it would all come a little bit clear later. Now I would generally avoid graphic, and I would just use buttons and movie clips, because you might set up I might set up this ball now as a movie clip with no intention of making, adding animation to it. But in time, I might go back and think, well, actually, no. While that ball is bouncing, I also want it to rotate, or I want it to do this or that. And obviously, if you set up a graphic, you won't be able to do that. So always set things up as movie clips or buttons. I would generally ignore graphic. So if I call this MC ball and click OK, and there we go. I've got a simple ball now. So here we've got a shape. Here the ball is a shape, as you can see, hence the shape tween works. Here it's now a movie clip. So now I can start the next phase of the animation. And what I'm going to do now is make this ball simply bounce up and down. Yeah. So if I come to, let's say 30, and I insert a new keyframe, and then what I'll do then is I'll drop this down to there. Brilliant. And then say I add, we've got 15, 30, so let's go to 45. And what I'm going to do is, to get this back in the same place, I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy frames, and I'm going to click 45 and paste frames. So there we go. So now can you see I've got it, the ball there, and the ball back up there. All I got to do now, right click in between the two keyframes. Don't click motion tween. That is a new feature that come in CS5. Ignore motion tween. You want to use a classic tween. Click classic tween, and can you see now the ball is moving? So if I click here, anywhere in between those two keyframes, and click classic tween, I've now got a very simple animation. Now we can see now the ball. It's it's okay, it's kind of bouncing, but there's not a lot of animation to it, and there's not a lot of personality to it. So there's a few things we can do to kind of make this look a bit more realistic, really, and a bit more fun. So if we come into here, I've got that bit there. Now what I'm going to do is copy frames and just come over to about here, click paste frames. Now there, I've got a bit of a delay there, haven't I, right? So I've got the ball there. Now what I'm going to do here is, if I use transform, and I'm going to squash this ball down and just drop it to there, just so there's a bit of animation, a bit more sort of realism to it. And then if I copy that again, and then say 2 over here, I paste in but there. And what I'll do now is I'm going to make this taller. Bring that there. And come up to there. Maybe this needs to be a bit shorter, actually. There we go. So now can you see there's a bit more animation involved with this, right? Now obviously this one is slightly longer than this, so I've added in about 5 frames. So I'll probably, if I grab this now and take this to 50, maybe that should sort of give it a bit more. And as you can see there now, when I play this, there's the ball has a lot more kind of personality to it, and the animation looks more seamless. Yeah. So when it comes down to motion, it is very much a case of going in, and whenever you want to change in direction or a change in shape or something, you simply come in, you set up these different key points or key frames, and you change the shape. So I've got that shape, going to that shape, going to that shape, going to that shape, and then back up to the top then. And then finally, then I can also use a thing called ease in to make these sort of look even more like this gravity and stuff involved. So if I just click here, and what I'm going to do is ease. I think it's ease out. No, sorry, ease in even. Sorry, I got that wrong. So if I click ease in, there we go. Now what I will do is make the animation. So I got the ball there, and rather than the ball shooting straight down, can you see how it's slowly coming in and then it drops? And then here as well, I can ease this out. So it looks like the ball, as it's dropping and coming back up, is running out of momentum. Again, so that's another cool sort of feature of Flash. Really, you can use these easing ins and outs to to add to the animation and make it look a bit more seamless. So there we go. We've got a very simple animation going on there. Right, so let's add in a bit of text. Let's just sort of mix it up a little bit. So let's call this layer ball. And now if I come down here, if I just want to add a new layer, so I've got layer 2. Now I can either add a keyframe or drop something in, or I can just drop something in here. So if I go to text, just pull this out there. Like I said, yeah, I got my keyframe there. So what I need to, let's go back. Sorry, what I want to do is insert keyframe there. Yeah, don't ignore what I just said. Insert keyframe there because I want the text to start coming in here. So if I click there, and I'll just write a very simple message. So welcome. I want this one to move in from one direction, and then if I call that welcome, take the thing off, welcome, and then if I create another layer, insert keyframe. Grab that again, and let's just call this to flash. And that's fine. Right, so if I come here, you see now my properties now is applicable to what I've got selected here. So if I use a paragraph, yep, that's already center aligned. If I align it to stage, and then flash the same. If I double click to go in with type tool, make sure that's center aligned. And then if I align that again to the stage, so I've got welcome to flash there. Now what I want to do is once this animation is finished, I want these two to come in then. So if I come around to about, let's just say 80. So if I highlight these three, insert keyframe. Sorry, if I Command Z and do that, what I need to do, sorry about that, I forgot to do, guys, is first convert these to a movie clip. Yeah. So if I right click, convert to symbol, movie clip, I could just call this MC welcome, and right click, convert to symbol, MC flash. Now the reason I'm doing this is A, because if I want to go back in future and add animation or anything like that I can, and B as well, see where I'd selected here the 3 keyframes. Now if I'd gone back to these keyframes and turned them into movie clips, it would have only done them on these frames. It wouldn't have done it on the frames here. So when I try to apply an animation, it wouldn't be matching up at all. So that's something you've got to remember. Make sure that whenever you do something on a keyframe, remember it'll only do it on that one keyframe. So you've got to either copy it over or make sure you do it to begin with, so that when you want to, for example, MC welcome, I want to use that now for the rest of the animation. And obviously on 80, it wasn't MC welcome. It was just a piece of text. So obviously the animation wouldn't match up. So if I come back now to 80s, right click, insert keyframe. Now you can see that keyframe. I've got MC welcome, MC flash. You'll have a lot of fun with this as well. MC whatever, MC flash sounds pretty cool. MC welcome, MC flash there. So that's what I wanted to finish, and I've also dropped in this keyframe here because I want this ball to stay here. I don't want it to do anything, so I'll just put in simple blank frames, but I just want that ball to stay. So this is my end. Welcome to flash. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have this one coming in from the right hand side. So let's move that over to there, and then flash, I'll have that coming in from the left hand side. So there's my start point, there's my finish point, and all I've got to do, right click, create a classic tween, and now to flash we'll start moving in, right click there, create classic tween, and as you can see now, welcome to flash will start moving in. If I want to give this a bit more fun, I can ease them out. So as I play that, click enter, they come in like that. If I wanted to, for example, have one coming in at once and the other way, I can just simply move the keyframes and shorten the animation. So let's say welcome comes in first, let's bring him down to about there, and then to flash can come in there then. So if I click enter, welcome to Flash. And there we go. Now, if I want to preview this in the Flash player, all I've got to do is hold Command and Enter, or I believe it is, where are you? Flash, hang on a sec, view, preview mode, no, sorry. This is what happens with years of hotkeys. There we go, test movie test, there we go. So you can either go control test movie test, or you can click Command and Enter, and if I click that, it will now show me the movie. Now, as you can see, that's going on loop. So the final thing we're going to look at today, if I click off, is simply, change that to Flash, is simply how to make that stop once the animation's finished. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is add another layer. I'm going to call this layer Actions. And now this is where we're going to do a tiny bit of action script. Yeah. So I'm going to go here. So I want the movie to stop at the end. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to insert keyframe. And then what I'm going to do, right click, Actions, and all I'm going to click, this is a tiny bit of action script, like I said, we're going to go through this more in the next lesson. If I go stop, open brackets, close brackets, and you can see it's prompting me there as well when I was doing this, there we go, close brackets, and semicolon, click off, so now I've got my action script applied to this final frame here. So when I get to here, the whole thing should stop, and then if I click Command and Enter, welcome to Flash, and there we go. The whole thing stops for me, and that is it, guys. That is all I'm going to show you today. I don't want to overcomplicate things. I want you to sort of get your head around using this time frame. You know, understanding the difference between a shape tween and a motion tween, and then understanding then where you would use, you know, shape and text, and then when you would convert them to a movie clip or a button, which, you know, I'll look into buttons a bit more in the next tutorial. So have some fun with it, guys. You know, this is an amazing piece of software. You know, the possibilities are endless, really. And I've just used, you know, basic shapes drawn from here, so keep it to that to begin with. But obviously, in time, when you get more confident, you can kind of build and create really interesting artwork in Illustrator, and then you can drop that in and animate that. You know, so keep it with the simple tools for now. But in time, don't be afraid to drop in more complicated artwork and make that move around. So yeah, there we go, guys. That's Flash. An introduction to Flash even. So have a play around with that, and when you're ready, move on to the next tutorial.